Hello! I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours. And I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour because you gotta pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but we get a lot of bachelorette parties in New Orleans on tours. It's just something that bachelorette parties like to do. We do get a few bachelor parties, but not nearly as many. And I actually sort of like some of the bachelorette parties. They can be absolutely fabulous at times. They often come wearing matching shirts or in themes, and it's sort of fun. But the problem is they're often very drunk and can be a little bit problematic. I had one this last weekend that their theme was Stevie Nicks, and they were fabulous. I loved them. And just on sheer luck, I was wearing a black lace duster, so I fit right on in. But the bride had a tambourine, which was fine. She only shook it a few times. But the problem is she also was holding a drink and kept having to shuffle the drink between her hands, which meant shuffling the tambourine between her hands, which meant there was almost a constant, slightly tinkling tambourine throughout my entire tour. And I didn't mind that much. It was a little bit of extra noise, but not that bad. But some of the other tour guides actually came up and complained to me about the tambourine girl. And I was like, she was not that big of a deal. Calm down. But possibly my least favorite bachelorette party I ever had was a night that me and another tour guide were dividing the group. And because I didn't really particularly actually want to work that night, I sort of wanted to go home. When we saw that the bachelorette party, the big group, weren't there yet, we went ahead and had all the other guests go with Rin, my coworker, and she just started, and I was going to be left with like 7 girls. And I was honestly sort of hoping they wouldn't show so I could go home. And I waited around for 5 minutes, and objectively, our contracts say we're supposed to wait 5 minutes, but usually we wait closer to 10, and we like text the office being like, hey, have you heard from my guests? And so I was messaging the office being like, have you heard from them? But 2 of the girls show up about 4 minutes after the tour's supposed to start. And I'm like, okay, so I am working tonight. That's fine. And like, I'm talking with the girls and they confirm that yes, they're a bachelorette party and I have the bride and the maid of honor with me. And they're very nice. And one of them goes off to pee and the bride just sort of stands with me and is chatting. And she seems slightly irritated before anything gets started. And I get the feeling it's because everyone's running late. And sure enough, she's waiting for like 5 more girls and they aren't here yet. So we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and I run out of small talk. Like, I have nothing else to say to them, so I'm just, like, literally going to the, like, nice weather we're having here. And the girl's getting more and more visibly annoyed, and every now and then the maid of honor would get, like, a text message or a call and step aside and deal with it and come back and be like, yeah, they're going to be here in a minute. Just a minute. They're almost here. They're almost here. And this bride is getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And at one point, she steps aside and calls the other girls and comes back. And I'm sort of like, do y'all want to just go ahead and get started? Like, we can't just go ahead. And they're like, no, they'll be here soon. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's fine. I'm sitting there being like, I'm 45 minutes late getting started, but this is fine. And finally, the girls do start to, like, walk up 45 minutes late. They are walking slowly. They are strewn out across the entirety of Jackson Square. Like, the first one arrives a good 2 minutes before the other 2. And as soon as they arrive, they're asking, like, so where do we go get drinks? Like, can we go get drinks and pay? And I'm like, no, we need to start. But the bride, I'm letting her be in charge because at this point, I've given up on the notion that I'm going to end anywhere near on time. I'm just like, whatever, I don't have another tour after this. It's okay. And the bride's like, no, we're getting started. And throughout the first stop, all 5 other girls spend the entire time either stepping away from the group to go text or standing right in the middle of the group and bitching about like, oh, so like, when are we going to a bar? Like, how long is this? How much walking is this? Like, should I go get a coat? Like, are we done? And like, literally, I am done with one stop and the girls are sitting there being like, so are we done? Can we go to a bar now? And meanwhile, the bride is looking at them like she is about ready to murder these girls. And like, at the second stop, again, they're asking like, so can we step away and go get drinks? Like, are we done yet? And the bride keeps telling them no. And at this point, I think it's just to punish them. And we do that entire tour. The only ones that talk to me all night, except for to complain, are the bride and her maid of honor. And they're talking about how much they love this tour. It's super fun. Meanwhile, behind them, there's a string of 5 girls being like, oh my god, Amber's bachelorette party was so much better than this. And near the last stop, the bride is sort of just chatting with me and very loudly, clearly enough that all the other girls hear it, I am sure, asks, so I'm thinking about replacing my wedding party. Would you like to be in my wedding? And I try not to just break out laughing, and I'm like, I'm sure there are other people that you can invite, but you're right, not these fucking bitches. So, I will say, pick your bridesmaids well, because some people are just not good people. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to share your own experiences in the comments below.